Captain Marvel has taken the superhero world by storm. And even though both the movie and the character have received some needless hate, the vast majority of the reception has been positive. And rightly so. It's a great movie that offers a fascinating insight into a previously untapped era in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Inevitably, it's also resulted in the spawning of countless MCU theories, including this one, which suggests Thanos sent Loki to Earth in 2012 because of Brie Larson's Carol Danvers. Let's get into it. Captain Marvel was, of course, set all the way back in 1995, 24 years ago, placing it second in terms of MCU movies chronologically, in spite of the fact that it was actually the 21st movie in the franchise. The highly acclaimed movie revealed that Earth had been invaded by aliens long before Loki ever arrived there and commanded the Chitauri army to emerge through a wormhole to attack New York City in that first Avengers movie. One of Captain Marvel's biggest and most exciting reveals, as well as one of its most satisfying connections to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe for those of you who enjoy that kind of thing, was the fact that the MacGuffin at the core of the movie's plot, the item that powered an engine that could travel faster than the speed of light, was actually a familiar one, the Tesseract, aka the Space Stone. The Space Stone is, of course, one of the 6 Infinity Stones that have been key to the entirety of the MCU's 22-movie Infinity Saga, and all of which ended up in the hands of the Mad Titan Thanos in last year's epic Avengers Infinity War. It was also the reason Josh Brolin's prune-chinned villain sent Loki to Earth in that first Avengers movie. The blue-colored object, which was originally housed within a cube, allows for control over the very concept of space, granting its wielders powers like teleportation across the cosmos and telekinesis. And it enabled Thanos to swiftly move from planet to planet, as well as allowing him to stop Loki in his tracks mid-attack, and throw an entire moon at some of the MCU's heroes in that epic showdown on Titan.
You throw another moon at me, and I'm gonna lose it.
It's an item of power that has a long and intriguing history on planet Earth, having also played a pivotal role in 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger. In that movie, it was revealed that the Asgardian Allfather Odin had left it in Norway during his time on the planet several centuries ago, when he was there with his armies, fending off Luffy and his frost giant hordes. But it could be that it was Captain Marvel's discovery of it that tipped Thanos off to the fact that it was located on our planet. In the same way that the Mind Stone gave the twin Maximoff siblings, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, their powers in the MCU, it was the Space Stone that gave Carol Danvers her powers, courtesy of the same explosion that erased her memories of all her life on Earth, following her test crash alongside Mar-Vell in 1989. Now, based on evidence from the Captain Marvel movie, there's a theory that this fateful explosion set in motion the events that ultimately resulted in Thanos sending Loki to take over the Earth on his behalf, and that retrieving the Space Stone from our planet might not have been the only thing Thanos had on his mind when he recruited Tom Hiddleston's power-crazed God of Mischief. No! It goes without saying that the amount of pre-planning that's gone into the MCU, especially from Phase 2 onwards, has been pretty spectacular. But it's also fair to say that there's been some retconning of the early movies in more recent times, which has created a number of plot holes in the franchise. It's kind of understandable. Marvel Studios won't have originally known how the entire franchise would unfold over the course of 22 movies in 11 years, but that's still a point of contention amongst ardent comic book movie fans. For example, after the events of his debut movie in 2011, Chris Hemsworth's Thor was originally said to be S.H.I.E.L.D.'s first contact with alien life, with Nick Fury saying in the first Avengers movie that Thor's arrival on Earth taught him that not only are we not alone, yet Captain Marvel made it very clear that both Nick Fury and Phil Coulson, and several other individuals on the planet the Asgardians call Midgard, encountered aliens long before Thor was so much as a twinkle in Earth's skies. On a similar note, Loki's invasion of Earth in the Avengers doesn't make anywhere near as much sense, now that Thanos' long game of wiping out half of all life in the universe using the Infinity Stones has been revealed. The Mad Titan sent Loki to retrieve the Space Stone from Earth, but he actively handed him the Mind Stone in order to help him achieve that goal, which seems kind of counterproductive in hindsight, to say the least. As a result of that rather bizarre plan, he ended up with no Infinity Stones whatsoever. It was an unnecessarily convoluted and, quite frankly, ridiculous plan for someone who's supposed to be a genius, master strategist, and cunning manipulator. To make matters even more confusing, Loki's official character profile on Marvel's website claimed that his outright villainous nature in the Avengers was thanks to him being influenced by the Mind Stone. And while that undoubtedly helps Loki's eventually redemption arc to make more sense, it also adds further complications and flaws to Thanos' plan, making it seem even more obvious to anyone with a brain that it was never going to work.
Not a great plan.
But before any of that happened, slightly before the Avengers were even an idea in Nick Fury's one-eyed head, Captain Marvel made an extremely powerful statement to Ronan the Accuser, and by further extension, the entire universe. At the climax of her debut MCU movie, after she destroyed a plethora of Kree warheads that were headed for Earth, and that would have alerted potentially hostile civilizations across the cosmos that Earth was now under her protection. It essentially made her Earth's cosmic equivalent of a nuclear deterrent, which may well explain why no other alien race tried to invade the planet before the Chitauri did so at the behest of the Mad Titan. We're already aware from 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy that Ronan and Thanos had an alliance, albeit something of an uneasy one, which confirmed that Thanos has links to the Kree Empire. You would think, therefore, that he would have heard about not only Captain Marvel from them, but also about the fact that the Space Stone was on Earth. The presence of the Tesseract explains why Earth became a target of the purple-skinned villain, but the potential presence of Captain Marvel also explains why he sent Loki and the Chitauri rather than attacking himself. And it might even explain why he didn't send in the Black Order, as he may not have wanted to see all 4 of his finest servants getting annihilated by Carol Danvers either. In spite of the fact that Thanos has ultimately got his hands dirty in the MCU, it's clearly not something he particularly enjoys doing. He generally prefers to deploy lieutenants, henchmen, and dispensable pawns. And prior to his all-out assault on Earth in Avengers Infinity War, where he sent the Black Order, the Outriders, and then ultimately arrived there himself with 5 Infinity Stones in tow, he first tested the planet's resolve by sending Loki and the Chitauri in, just to see if there was anything there that was capable of fighting off a massive extraterrestrial invasion. Of course, by then, Earth had assembled a team of 6 superheroes who, after some teething issues, were prepared to do whatever it took to protect the planet. But while those heroes may have emerged victorious from the battle, they also inadvertently gave the Mad Titan a good idea of their powers, and what they were capable of. And perhaps most importantly, he would undoubtedly have been made aware of their weaknesses as well. Thanos certainly wasn't aware of the Avengers before he deployed Loki to Earth, not least because they didn't actually exist before he sent the God of Mischief there, and the events at the end of the Captain Marvel movie suggest that the Mad Titan's real aim was to test the waters, to find out if the woman powerful enough to send the Kree Empire running scared was still present on Earth almost 2 decades later. Countless fans of the MCU have raised the question of why Nick Fury didn't use his high-tech pager to send an SOS to Carol Danvers when Loki and the Chitauri invaded Earth. But his failure to do exactly that had bigger and more dire consequences than simply making the Avengers' task a little more difficult than it perhaps should have been.
Well done.
You see, it also sent a very clear message to Thanos that Earth was no longer under Captain Marvel's immediate protection. It basically said to the Mad Titan, Come attack us, you big purple man. Yes. And given that that's the case, it actually makes Thanos' seemingly terrible plan make a lot more sense. It also fits in with the fact that Thanos seems to have waited for a lot of other potential threats to his plans to die off in the MCU before executing it. The likes of the Ancient One, Odin, Ego, Hela, and indeed all of Asgard might have had something to say about the fact that another powerful being was attempting to impose his will on the entire universe. So it's in character for Thanos to avoid conflict with characters truly capable of stopping him. Of course, the MCU's writers might not have known that Captain Marvel would be coming to the franchise when they were writing the script for the Avengers. But this theory conveniently gives them a stupidity get-out clause in retrospect. We can now say that Thanos sent in an unstable Loki with one of the Infinity Stones to try and retrieve another Infinity Stone, knowing that he'd get a victory of sorts, regardless of whether or not Tom Hiddleston's character succeeded in conquering Earth. The obvious victory would have been if Loki managed to bring the Space Stone back to Thanos, but when his Frost Giant pawn failed, it still gave the Mad Titan a decent idea about the kind of resistance Earth would pose to his plans for universal domination. And ultimately, it revealed if Captain Marvel was still on the planet or not. As Captain Marvel's mid-credit scene ultimately showed, Carol Danvers wasn't able to make it back to Earth until some time after the events of Avengers Infinity War. Long after the dust had settled, so to speak. She made her return when the Avengers were tinkering with Nick Fury's pager, trying to figure out who he had used it to send a distress signal to. And the scene is clearly occurring days, weeks, or even several months after Thanos had snapped his fingers and erased half of all life in the universe. Thankfully, it's a situation that actually gives the Avengers a massive advantage over the Mad Titan, because at this stage, given that Captain Marvel has been a no-show for 2 major alien invasions of Earth, well, Pruny Boy has probably come to the conclusion that she's either dead or no longer concerning herself with matters on Earth. And now, with the MCU's most powerful superhero on their side, in unexpected circumstances as far as Thanos is concerned, the heroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are actually in a great position to come out on top in Avengers Endgame. The Mad Titan will get one heck of a shock when the most powerful hero in the universe turns up and joins the fight to save reality. And if he gets resurrected following the events of Avengers Infinity War, Loki should think himself very lucky indeed, because if Captain Marvel had been on Earth when he invaded back in 2012, he might have been permanently killed off a long time ago. Well, what do you think about this? Did Thanos send Loki to Earth to find out if Captain Marvel was really still there? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Screen Rant for more great content. Bye for now.